Good evening, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We're launching our second edition of Papa's Pantry. And again, just to remind everyone, I've launched Papa's Pantry to send easy to make, delicious recipes for my two younger children who are currently in their second year of college. And I just want to give everyone a huge thanks for all of the great support and confidence you sent me after our first Papa's Pantry episode, which was about making juicy cheeseburgers. Today we're going to move to a different class of recipe, and we're going into the seafood category. You can see here a beautiful piece of salmon. And anytime you're making a dinner, always get your tools and ingredients mapped out. So you can see I have a broiler plate here with some aluminum foil, salt and pepper for my seasoning, olive oil, and lemon, which we'll be using to also add flavors to the salmon. So the first thing, of course, we always have our favorite beverage, which today is again a red wine. For my kids, remember, non-alcoholic, you're underage. So let's begin. First thing I want to do, I want to take the olive oil and I simply want to coat the aluminum foil that we're going to be cooking on. It just prevents the skin side of the salmon from sticking. Going to take the salmon, this happens to be a fairly substantial piece, and I'm going to put it on our broiler dish. Okay, 3 steps. Going to put a little olive oil on top. Going to squeeze a little bit of our lemon, which we've already cut. Just really brings out the great flavor of this awesome looking piece of fish. And always remember to have a towel close to hand so we can dry our hands before we move to seasoning with, again, and I know a lot of people are reluctant to season with salt. You really don't need to use a lot, but you do want to season your food. It just brings out the flavor. You could also choose to put a little garlic powder on top of this if you chose to. I'm not going to do that today. And what I've already done, I've already turned on our oven. I've let it come to about 400 degrees. And I'm simply going to take what we have and I'm going to place it in the oven. And depending on the thickness, and I always cook in the middle rack, depending on the thickness, you probably want to set your timer for 20 minutes to start. So we've got our salmon in the oven. We need a vegetable. We need veggies to stay healthy. So today we're going to be cooking cut acorn squash or butternut squash. I just take it, going to throw it into our pot here. Going to coat it with olive oil to prevent it from sticking. And then all I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take this, put it on a lined baking dish. Again, make sure you've used enough olive oil so that it does not stick, because it will be very difficult to get off of this baking dish if it has not been coated with enough olive oil. Looks a little dry, so I'm going to add a touch more. Move those around again. And then we're going to go back again to season with our salt and pepper. A few grindings of the pepper. Pinch of salt, spread it around. Now this time I am going to use a garlic powder. You don't have to. Let me pull the garlic powder out of our drawer. Going to take it and simply sprinkle it over. Again, you don't need to be worried about any measurements. We don't need to be precise here. Let's keep cooking simple, keep it basic. I've mixed it up, I've moved it around. We've got some nicely coated butternut squash. It's gonna come out delicious. Again, I've turned the oven on, I've preheated it. Going to throw it in and let that cook until you start to see it darken, sort of get crispy and a little bit burnt. Delicious. So that concludes our second episode of Papa's Pantry. Thank you for joining, and of course, happy eating.